record. And then I want to start the meeting. Tony, can you unshare right now?
Mm-hmm. Did that do it?
No, you just click stop share. I'm still viewing your screen. Oh, wait. Oh, I'm recording. Oh, good. Someone just told us. Thank you, Melody. We are actually on, Tony, and I didn't even know that. Good old Melody helped us out there. I'm like trying to figure it out. All right. So we're recording.
Well,
and people are getting on.
All right.
Awesome. So you can start whenever you'd like.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the 2020, I suppose, DI season. I guess that's part of our time machine. It's still 2019, but we're in the 2020 season. So my name is Tony Estrada. I'm one of the Challenge Masters helping you out.
I'm Sarah Eistoffer, and I'm one of your other Challenge Masters. And we're currently waiting for our third Challenge Master, Bonnie, to phone in as well.
All right. So can you guys see the slideshow?
If you guys can see the slideshow, just write yes in your chat box.
All right. It's a lot of yeses. I like it. All right. Good stuff. All right, guys. So first of all, that was our introduction. This is a way to get in touch with us. We can respond to email throughout the year. Just ask away, and we're at your disposal. That's our job as volunteers for you guys. So without you guys, there would be no DI. So hip hip hooray for team managers. That's good. Thank you guys very much for doing your part and inspiring the kids. This is several years in the making, and I'm still here. So that's good. All right. So what are the benefits of Instant Challenge? Well, for one, it's a portion of your tournament, but I think Instant Challenge is one of the cool aspects of Destination Imagination because, you know, quite frankly, it allows the kids immediate access to the program, you know, as they're pursuing their main challenge over several months. You know, they see that process slower, a lot more specific hard work in order to have their DI experience there. But with Instant Challenge, literally you can just go to the store, grab some materials, and the fun begins now. And I love that part of it. So what are the benefits? It allows you to assess a situation. I look at Instant Challenge sort of as a microcosm of the real world. Perhaps that's a little bit too ambitious, but that's kind of how I think. Helps you to define a problem, in this particular case, the problem, the challenge, the Instant Challenge. It helps you to make a plan more specifically as a team, you know, so it allows your team to do that, and to create solutions quickly, which is very cool. The skills learned, it helps kids into the future. I mean, you know, the educational team at headquarters in New Jersey, you know, say, you know, we're preparing the kids for a future of careers, and those careers are unknown, 21st century skills. I mean, you never know what careers are going to be available in 20 years, and it's these skills that are sought after. You know, some of the team managers I've worked with have been engineers, and they say, you know, there's the standard engineer and then the creative engineer. And the creative engineer is the one who actually, you know, leads the team and helps with innovation and all of that. What does it take to be creative? Really, if you think you're creative, then you know what? Just be creative, and it starts with a decision. It starts with a positive attitude, and I think IC is a great start with immediate access to help you be positive. So what is Instant Challenge? It's worth 25% of the overall score at tournament. I know we're jumping the gun a little bit, but I wanted to get that out of the way before we go into the creative process. So at tournament, you'll have your main challenge, which is worth 75%. So out of a 400 possible points. That's 300 for the main challenge and 100 for the instant challenge. All your instant tournaments will be worth 100 points. So why is instant challenge important? It's worth 25%. So if you subtract 25%, 100, 75%, is that passenger? Sure. But if you want to give kids a competitive advantage, for instant challenge, you should focus on that at least during your practices. So a solid instant challenge score can significantly help in that tournament, especially if the main challenge scores are very close. In that particular case, instant challenge really is sort of the make it or break it score. So the team should be diligent about practicing and preparing their instant challenges throughout the year. Your roadmap that you get through the resource area when you access your digital materials we'll kind of go over how to practice instant challenge. We'll go over that in brief today. That's much more detailed document, and we have about 6 practice instant challenges in the roadmap. Also access set, which is another handful of free instant challenges for you. Another resource to find instant challenges is really just the internet. A lot of teams share it, share their groups of instant challenges over the years, and that's another good place. At some point, you might feel like you're running an instant challenges. There's no wrong answer. It doesn't have to be in a specific format. Really just create the challenges to help with the main challenge, sort of mini challenges. So at tournaments, you're not going to see the same challenges throughout. So can everyone still hear me?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. I will try to slow down. Okay, good. Let's see. So we like to lead the kids through opportunities specific to things like the materials or the performance techniques. So focusing on techniques, and I wouldn't necessarily say tricks, because again, you might not, what you practice in one instant challenge may not be applicable to the next instant challenge, but being familiar with those materials and techniques is very helpful. All right. So the practice procedure, generally a team stands around a table with a copy of the instant challenge. Some team managers prefer to have that face down. Sometimes it is face up. It kind of depends. Okay. Good. All right. It looks like you guys can hear me. If there are materials in the challenge, the materials will typically be on the same table as you find your challenge paper that you read from. Generally, the teams cannot touch the materials until the time begins in the instant challenge tournament. In this case, we're talking about practice, so you should not respond to the kids' questions until time begins to get them into that habit. The team manager will read the copy of the instant challenge aloud, and then once the reading is done, the timer starts, the teams can begin working. All right. So in the past, there's been times where, let's say it's a 5-minute challenge, you give like a 2-minute warning, a 1-minute warning. You will not be giving your teams any kind of time warnings or time announcements unless they ask. So train your teams to ask for time. How much time remaining? Time check. Time, please. However they want to do that. Do it often. Train your teams to do it often. After the instant challenge is complete, the team manager will assign a score to the team solution, and then you'll start your debrief. So reflection. So after the instant challenge, it's important that the team members actually discuss their process. That process will change and evolve over time. In the beginning, it's just about getting through it, doing their best, getting to know each other's learning styles, and those sorts of things. So as a team manager, it's your job to facilitate the discussion. If you can get the kids to talk to each other, it's a lot better than just talking with the kids or leading a discussion. So in that particular case, you're actually helping them lead the discussion, really. If you can get them into the habit of leading their debrief, you ask the question, they respond, and kind of lead that process, it's going to really help them in the long run. But then when they're actually in the instant challenge, you can actually know what to do, how to speak with each other, how to respect each other's ideas, how to generate the ideas, and to choose them in a respectful way. So what kind of questions can a team manager ask? What did you do well? What was the most difficult part of the performance or the task challenge? What could you do to improve? So
I'll add one thing here. I think if you ask your team what they did well versus what they're proud of, you might get two different answers.
absolutely. Kids have a lot of fun with Instant Challenge, and if you let them kind of explore, it's an opportunity. That's part of the fun process with DI. It's really great. Also, we'll go into a little bit, but in terms of interference, your roadmap goes through interference in your main challenge, where team managers and parents and siblings, it's hands off when it comes to the ideas, when it comes to actually building, writing the script, writing the story. An Instant Challenge, that applies to the tournament day, because it's that day that the challenge is announced. You're not going to have that challenge at tournament until tournament. So interference is allowed throughout the season. And it's important for you to know, when I say it's allowed, it doesn't mean that you should do all the talking just on this slide. Help facilitate the discussion, help the kids actually lead their own discussion if possible. Have the kids actually do the challenge by themselves with you holding the timer and letting them do the challenge on their own. Okay, so having said that, it's okay to train them on skills, techniques, just like it's okay to teach them how to use a drill or how to use a pair of scissors. It's okay to teach them how to use a straw or a pencil in Instant Challenge. Okay.
Just a second. This is Kate. I want to interrupt a second there. Do feel free if the kids just can't figure it out, though, especially if you have younger elementary school kids, to go up and show them how you would solve it. It's not interference. It's a time for you actually maybe to get out your need to explain and teach. So if the younger they are too, don't hesitate to help them be successful.
I would transition throughout the season. Start fairly hands-on with your kids and transition them to where they're able to be fairly independent with it. I think that if you don't make that transition by the end of the season, it's going to be, your kids are going to be fine. It's going to be hard for you to sit in a tournament and sit on your hands and keep your face straight and not interfere in that way if you haven't made that transition happen.
And we'd like to welcome Bonnie too. Bonnie is the third ACM for Instant Challenge, and she had to work late. The boss kept her at the grindstone a little long.
Bonnie.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. So don't worry about perfection. I don't know if there's such a thing when it comes to Instant Challenge. We'll talk about how to optimize or make Instant Challenges better. Focus on the fun. Like I said, Instant Challenge gives you immediate access to the DI program without lifting a finger, really. At least you have to lift a finger, but you kind of get the gist. There's also a chance for team members to get used to the procedure, how Instant Challenges are scored, etc. Train your teams to pay attention to the scoring. A lot of times when you read an Instant Challenge, after the reading, the team manager reads the challenge, have the kids start from the bottom, start with the score, then go up to the materials, then go up to the procedure. You'll see that a little bit later if you haven't seen an Instant Challenge before. Okay, creative process. So this is DI's way of helping the kids to form a process of how to do things as a team. This is a kind of a combination of certain psychological techniques. One is like the Bloom's taxonomy of learning, the scientific process, those sorts of things. So this is how DI has kind of whittled down their way of training the kids to be creative. I mean, how do you teach creativity? It's a process. How do you teach creativity over time? You have to try things. You have to use failure as a mechanism for later success. Don't give up, as Winston Churchill would say. All right, good enough. All right, so recognize. At the top of the challenge paper, you are going to see some of the things, such as, what the challenge is. Is it a task-based challenge? Is it a performance challenge? Are there materials? How much time are you going to have? Are there limitations in the scoring? Are there specific types of scoring? What are you being awarded for? Okay.
That's the biggie. What are you being awarded for? Where are you earning your points?
Absolutely. All right. So have your team think of as many approaches to the instant challenge as possible. Imagine the ideas. Think them, have them actually say their ideas out loud. During the idea generation or the ideation process, there is no such thing as a bad idea. You want to get the ideas out. I always say, you got a jar of jelly beans. They're all white. If you have no red jelly beans, a red jelly bean represents a single idea. Throw as many red jelly beans in there, and then you have that more of a chance of actually coming up with it. All right, initiate and collaborate. So if we kind of go back to this, we started with recognize what's being asked of you. Going down to the left, imagine your ideas. Then we're going to start to initiate and collaborate, work together and actually build the solution. During the building, we're going to assess. So let's kind of go through that. Initiate and collaborate. Focus the ideas down into workable solutions. What's going to work for this solution? Have them spend a little bit of time talking about what the best solutions are. Remember, during the idea generation, all ideas are great. During this, you narrow down the ideas. Okay? What ideas will actually solve the instant challenge? How can you solve the instant challenge with which materials? So ultimately, what's your final idea? What are you going to focus on? Are you going to divide the work? Is there someone that's better at folding paper? Is there someone better that's rolling paper? Is there someone that's good at putting straws inside of each other? Someone good at manipulating chenille sticks? I mean, figure out who's good at what. Divide the work based on that so it's more efficient in terms of time. Do you have a backup plan? Are there enough materials to even have a backup plan? Sometimes that's the problem when you want to build two things, but the first idea needs more materials and the backup plan doesn't have enough materials. So figure that out. When you're practicing, that's fine. You guys can, as Kate and Sarah both said, sometimes you're going to be very hands-on in the beginning, and that's okay. But in that particular case, maybe you do bring out some more materials once the challenge is done to kind of workshop it and to explore how would you solve it differently. Okay, how will you know when the solution is complete? And ultimately at the bottom, now complete the instant challenge. That's once you're done with initiating, collaborate, do the challenge itself. All right, assess. Make sure that you've got someone that's asking for time regularly, or if you have multiple people asking for time, and that's okay too. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have a question from, it looks like Rachel or Rochelle. Are the materials provided for the instant challenge? Yes. So when you go to tournament, you go into the challenge room at tournament, the materials will be there if there are materials for that challenge.
And there are plenty of challenges that do not have materials.
Right, correct. Okay. So as far as assessing, is the solution actually working? Is there someone that's sort of the risk management guy that says, guys, this was a really good idea when we're thinking about it, but as we're building this, I'm not sure this is the best idea, or how can we improve this idea or do something different? Make up that plan. Do you execute the backup plan or do you go with plan A? Does everyone have a role? Is everyone doing something? Based on those rules, is everyone fulfilling that? Is the final solution meeting the requirements of the instant challenge? Go back to the rules, go back to the score. I mean, if you're building a tower and you guys are trying to build it 50 inches tall, but it's a 20-inch max, you're doing too much. Make sure they understand that it's a 20-inch max or a 30-inch max, whatever that particular thing is. Evaluate and celebrate. Part of this, the evaluate is your debrief. Did you follow the plan? What would you do differently next time? What could you improve on? And did your team work well together? You guys will eventually get to know each other, and that team will know better how to work with each other as long as they have the opportunity. So we always recommend in every challenge or every DI practice with the team, make sure a portion of that's devoted to instant challenge. Whether that's just doing the challenge and talking about it, or just doing the challenge, exploring and then redoing the challenge. Whatever time you have, just make sure there's some time. And I say that because in the beginning, as you're developing your main challenge solution, really there is time. There is time to do the instant challenge. And, come January, when it's crunch time, January, February, you feel like there's no time for instant challenge. Well, as long as you've done your instant challenge practices at the beginning, I do recommend doing every practice, but I get it. During crunch time, it's difficult. So try to plan time every practice, whether it's 15 minutes, 20 minutes, a half hour, an hour, whatever you have available with your team, practice instant challenge.
So I want to interject here. A lot of those questions were really awesome for evaluate. We tend to skim over celebrate, and I want to stop doing that. So we don't have as much access to the team to do the celebrate step, or to see it or to facilitate it. You might have an appraiser that's in the chill out room after instant challenge if you have the luxury of having a chill out room, but more than likely you don't have an appraiser who's there to guide you through those celebratory questions, and we see some tears in that room sometimes. So definitely take time to ask your kids what they're proud of and celebrate what they're proud of.
Very good. Absolutely. And that's important. The kids are having fun.
We also have another question. Is there a benefit for practicing instant challenge when all team members aren't at a meeting? Absolutely. There are always benefits to practicing instant challenge. In fact, if you have fewer people, you're going to learn quicker where those kids who are present shine, because they're going to have to really step out of the roles that maybe they've found themselves comfortable in. Having 7 pairs of hands might stop a really talented builder from trying to build. So you're going to learn a lot by practicing those with all different combinations of your team members.
Absolutely. All right, let's take a look. All right, Sarah, would you like to read?
I can read. Is it on 2 slides?
I don't have multiples, so I'm just going to do this.
What? I don't have materials on here at all. Is it on 2 slides?
Read this, and let me see. So the second slide has the rest.
Okay. All right. I will read it. Team, are you ready?
Uh-huh.
Uh-uh.
Uh-huh.
Yay!
Okay. All right, team, your challenge today is called Above and Beyond. Your task is to build a freestanding tower that is as tall as possible. For the purpose of this challenge, freestanding means that the structure may not be attached to anything. Time. You will have up to 4 minutes to use your imagination and the creative process to build your tower. Procedure. 4 minutes. In the center of the room is a table and materials. Use the materials on the table to build a freestanding tower that is as tall as possible. At the end of time, the appraisers will measure the height of your tower. No team member may be touching the tower while it is being measured. Materials. You will have 1 piece of paper, 1 paper cup, 2 craft sticks, 2 straws, 2 chenille sticks, 4 mailing labels. The mailing labels may not be attached to the table. You'll receive 10 points if you use only 1 or 2 types of materials, 1 point with up to 40 points maximum for each inch of height of your tower, up to 30 points for the creativity of your tower, and up to 20 points for how well your team works together. Again, your challenge is your task is to build a freestanding tower that is as tall as possible.
All right.
Team,
So
your time. Do you want me to time it?
if you want to, I have a timer too.
Oh, that's cheating. I'm going to time it.
Okay.
Team, your 4 minutes begins now.
Okay, so guys, tell me what to do. I don't know if we can unmute everybody. That might be kind of chaotic.
I don't know that is an option.
Okay, fair enough. All right.
Bonnie and Sarah and I are unmuted, and anyone can put a chat on if they want to.
Yeah, you can send a chat. Tony, why don't you build and just avoid the paper tower solution?
Do it or avoid it?
Avoid it.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about...
Can you return to the materials, please, Tony?
Oh, got it. All right. All right, well, let's talk about this guy. All right, so maybe I roll the paper. So a lot of times we teach the kids to roll the paper tightly. In this case, it might actually be beneficial to roll it less tightly. A lot of times we teach the kids to not use the whole piece of mailing label. A lot of kids like to do like this. I tend to like to do it the long way because it has more surface area on the actual material.
If and poke a hole into the cup. And unless it doesn't say that you can't, then you certainly can.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, so poke a hole in the cup, Tony.
What's that?
Someone in the audience wants you to poke a hole in the cup.
Poke a hole in the cup. You got it.
In the bottom.
Now what?
Good.
What now? Can you what do you have there? A straw? Can you connect your straws together and put them in the hole? How many inches is that?
So your straws would be about 7 3/4, so we got about 14 inches. With the
And how
40 max, what do you guys think? How much time left?
Correct.
You have 1 minute and 32 seconds.
Holy moly.
So someone is asking if we can put the chenille sticks standing on the table, poking a hole in the cup. I'm not sure quite what that means.
If you put the chenille sticks into the straws, do they stick?
Oh yeah, put the chenille. Can you put a chenille stem into the straw, Tony?
Probably could. I just made a really poorly rolled piece of paper, if you guys are interested in that.
Put the chenille in the straws, then stick the straws over the craft sticks in the holes in the bottom of the cup.
We also have break the craft sticks and attach 3 legs to the cup, maybe.
Ooh. Uh-oh, crunch time. How much time?
32 seconds remaining.
It's hard to have teamwork with 25 people.
Okay, what else do we want to do? Chenille sticks?
In the straws, yes.
How much time?
4 seconds. Time.
Boom!
Oh, boom. Oh, no, it fell down.
So, in terms of the creative process, during the assess component of that, we probably should have spent more time. All right, what's working, what's not working? I realize.
Well, let's assess this. I'll give you all some background. This is the first time we've done a challenge over Zoom in this way. Typically, we're at least sitting in the same room and we work on it together, as opposed to Tony building it all by himself.
So we got about maybe 12 inches of paper with the overlap. So maybe another 10 inches. So that's 22 inches. Chenille stick is 12 inches. We overlap that. So another 10 inches. So what we got? 10, 15, and another 10. So about 25 to 30. Not too bad.
Okay.
All right.
We used more than 1 or 2 types of materials.
Well, you want to go back to
Oh, I forgot that was a part of it.
The 10 points if you use only 1 or 2 types of materials? No. The 1 point, 40 points maximum for each inch. So I'd say we got, what, 25, 27? 30 points to the creativity of your tower. What do you guys think?
I think it's cool.
All right.
I think we used everything about as I expected it to be used.
All right. And I'll give us a perfect 20 for teamwork, right?
Especially for Melody and Suzanne and
Yes.
Aditi, who helped out. Their teamwork was impeccable.
Oh, that was great. Excellent.
I do want to remind everybody that when you're doing instant challenge with your team, that this is an instant challenge that could probably be given to elementary school kids or high school kids, but they'll say on the instant challenge what grade level they're for. And if you are a Rising Stars team manager, this is not the type of team challenge, instant challenge your Rising Stars are going to get. They're going to get more parallel play sort of instant challenges, and they have a whole resource area full of Rising Stars instant challenges on the resource area after you purchase your team number. So don't get scared if you're Rising Stars.
All right, guys, good job. All right, what do we do well? What do you think?
So we do have a question.
Do the kids have scoring ways on tournament? Whatever appears at the bottom of the challenge is exactly how they're going to be scored. Later, we'll show you some rubrics, kind of give you an idea of how the appraisers will apply the scores.
Well, and so the 2 slides that I read off of, that would all be structured on one sheet of paper, and they'll have 2 copies of that challenge at tournament that will have exactly the same segments that we just went through. So it'll list what your challenge is. It'll list what the setup in the room is. It'll list your procedure for the challenge. It'll list what materials you have, and it'll list the scoring elements. They have access to look at that for the entire time they're in the room.
100%, yeah. And a lot of times there's kids that are a little better at deciphering the rules and the score. So figure out, your detail-oriented kids, which ones might be best suited for that.
I also, so let me add this, because I think we might be talking around some of the elements for our new team managers. The way that I just read that challenge will be read by an appraiser in that same manner at tournament day. So they will welcome your team into the room, greet them, ask them if they're ready to go, and then they will read it all verbatim. There is an appraiser version and a team version. So the team version doesn't actually include a list of materials on that single sheet of paper. It will have the materials listed on a separate sheet of paper, as well as the materials actually physically on the table. The appraiser will read the challenge, and then the time will start. They will not have time to ask questions before time starts. That all has to happen during the allotted time for the challenge. So we have another question. It says, are kids allowed to use tools like scissors for instant challenges? Kids are allowed to use what is provided. So scissors are a relatively uncommon item to have provided, but it isn't unheard of. Typically, if they're having provided materials, scissors is an option. A yardstick is really common. Maybe a ruler. I don't know what else.
Other materials as tools, like we had craft sticks. You can use the craft sticks to fold the paper and rip them in a straight line.
But really, the answer to that is you can only use what's provided and listed on the materials list. So they're not going to be able to bring anything into the room. That includes watches. And one more question. So if the kids don't understand the challenge exactly, they can't ask for clarification until time starts. That's exactly correct. Otherwise, we would run into the challenge of having kids who really, really don't understand the challenge, and they get a whole lot of extra time spent asking the appraisers for clarification. Another question, can kids ask questions during the time the assessor is reading the instructions? No, they have to wait until the appraiser says your time starts now. Then they can begin asking questions. So Melody, can we come back to your question in a little bit?
Okay. All right. So what do we do well? What do you guys think?
You moved the materials around really quickly and got them situated in place very quickly.
Great. Difficult part of the challenge, what do you think?
The fact that there are a lot of us and we're doing it digitally.
I also think it was difficult to balance it. I mean, using a cup is good. I mean, it could have benefited maybe making sure that as the materials went through the cup, we stabilized that from the beginning. We could have used the craft sticks more effectively for that purpose. You actually mentioned, kind of doing a water tower thing where you've got the 3 craft sticks or the 2 craft sticks to help elevate the cup. That was a possibility. Did we follow the plan? I think based on the instructions, it was great. What would I do differently next time? There's lots of techniques to build towers. Really, the most important part of a tower challenge is the base. Email us. We have some ideas for that. Or
go to an instant challenge day. Go to in-person trainings that are offered as you find out about them. They're really, really useful.
Absolutely. In-person stuff's always better. How could we improve on the challenge? Obviously more hands make for less work. So if we actually had more than 2 hands, it would have been better. Did the team work well together? I think the ideas were great. The implementation, I think I was a little slow, but that's just par for the course, right? All right, guys. We have to
Also, we needed one person to be reading it to be remembering the instructions because I forgot the instructions.
Right. Okay, so we are at 7:35. All right, so at tournament, the same appraisers will appraise all teams in the same central challenge and the same age level. So if your team is doing, for example, scientific and they're an elementary team, all scientific elementary teams will have the same challenge with the same set of appraisers. That's just one possible thing. So if you look at it, 6 competitive challenges, 3 competitive levels for the most part, unless you have university teams. That's 18 different instant challenge tournaments. You may not have 18 rooms because there may not be enough kids, but you will have the same set of appraisers and that same challenge for each of those 18 possibilities in that example.
So if you have an appraiser who scores your team really, really nicely, they are scoring everyone else really, really nicely. Same if you have an appraiser who is being really, really strict. They're going to see the same set of eyes.
100%. A minimum of 2 have to participate in the instant challenge. That implies that not all team members have to necessarily participate, but we encourage every team member to participate. 2 is the minimum. All team members are encouraged, and we said that. All right, teams must decide which team members are going to participate before entering the IC room. You can't have the whole team come in and say, "Oh no, it's a performance challenge, I'm out of here." No.
I really recommend that this is an option presented in a solution to a problem that's being had and not treated as a survivor, we're voting you off the island kind of way.
This is important. If you have multiple team managers, 2 team managers, only one of them may accompany the team into the room. Only one team manager can observe, and they can't say anything, but we'll get into that. Teams may not use any items other than what's provided for. I think we talked about that a little bit. You may not alter infrastructure. You can't move tables, can't move tape, whatever is there as far as infrastructure must remain.
We do have a question. Does the number of team members participating affect the score? No, the appraisers, because the bottom line is the appraisers, they're scoring what they're provided. We want to give as many points as possible. So if you have a team member who is having a crisis that day and does not think they can do it, they are more than welcome to come watch the instant challenge. They need to sit with the team manager at the start. And like we said, before the team enters the room, that communication needs to be made to your appraiser who is welcoming you into the room. So the appraiser may know that someone isn't participating, but we're not going to penalize you for it.
Awesome. Okay, so you can't alter infrastructure. You can't ask for time remaining at any point during the challenge. And the appraisers may only respond to team questions after time's been started. So in general, the teams cannot touch the materials or ask questions of the appraisers unless they're on the clock. Just think of it that way. So if it's a 2-part challenge, that means they can't do it at the beginning of the challenge until time starts, and they can't do it between the parts when you're off the clock either. Okay, so the appraisers will only respond when you're on the clock is the best way to think of it. Okay, rules of the room: no cameras, cell phones, no recording devices, no timekeeping devices. You may not photograph, videotape. Generally, your check-in table team or your holding team will take those items and have them.
This is important to recognize. This is also true for team managers. you'll need to leave it outside the room as well.
So no notes, no scrap papers, and a lot of times kids want to take their structures with them. They may not, because those structures get put into the trash as not to have the next team or the next team be able to see those structures or have any idea of what the challenge is. The instant challenge is supposed to be a level playing field, which means every team who enters the instant challenge room at tournament, it's a brand new experience for every team. All right. Interference in the IC room. Like we said, interference doesn't apply throughout the season. It does apply on tournament day. Managers cannot communicate in any way with the teams. They can observe, and that's it. No winky faces, no smiley faces, no whatever. Let the team do their thing. Okay. Team managers generally should not speak during the challenge. And this is not meant to be punitive. It's just an opportunity to allow the kids to do their instant challenge. All right. So the philosophy is we want to give kids as many points as possible. Award points versus deduct. Positive versus negative. We emphasize what they did produce, not what they did not produce. This is not a tick system or a negative mark system. It's a build-up system, and we want the kids to succeed. Types of scoring. So you may have saw in the above and beyond objective scores such as how tall is the tower? Did you use one or two materials? These can be counted, measured, and so they're objective. It is or isn't. Subjective score. You saw that you get 1 to 20 points for creative use of materials, 1 to 20 points for teamwork. These are opinions, subjective scores. So the 0 scores, we saw one of those. You either got the 10 points for 1 or 2 materials used, or you did not get the 1 or 2 points. All right, what do we got? Okay, so let's go back to Melody real quick. So detail-oriented kids, I mean, I think it's good to rotate the kids.
So let's read her question out, because let's make sure that everyone's on the same page. So the question was to, like, when identifying your more detail-oriented kids, would we recommend at practice rotating students to have one person keep track of time, one student to check that we're meeting the criteria, etc.? Yes, plan out and try and assess what your kids do well, what their preferences are. They are honestly probably going to be pretty good at self-assessing and knowing what they should or shouldn't be doing. If they're not, then it's time to sit them down and talk about who thinks their strengths, who thinks the other team members have specific strengths. So team, who are we nominating as our best builder? Who are we nominating as the best person for timekeeping? Who are we nominating as our best point guard, is what I've called the person who's really detail oriented and who can tell us where we're earning points and keep us on track. Whatever roles work best for your team, use them. There are a lot of different resources about roles that you can utilize.
All right, very good. Types of objective scores, we saw inches of height. If it's a weight challenge, how many weights placed on a structure? Does the story have a beginning, middle, and an end? There are performance style challenges as well. Subjective, opinion, creative use of materials, teamwork, and then time called before actually completing a requirement, or it did or did not exist. Here's your rubric for teamwork. So if you look at it as box 1, 2, 3, and 4, in a standard 20, they're equally 5, depending on the boxes. You kind of see the different things. So when you look at box 4, which is a good goal, the roles are easily identified. There's a mutual respect. The dynamics of the team are really good. Really, they have a shared purpose, and it's apparent in their in the way they work. And the rest just kind of trickles down from there. We can certainly send you the PowerPoint later, specific for this.
Yes. It's also important to note when we're talking about scoring, when you get your instant challenge scores back, it will not happen until you are getting the rest of your tournament scores back. So if you're getting back scores from your team challenge, you're not going to get scores returned from instant challenge in the same way. You're going to get a view of what their raw score was out of 100, so what they actually earned total out of 100 from the appraisers, and then you'll get their adjusted score. So the team that gets the highest score overall will bump up to 100 points, and then it'll scale upwards everyone else as well.
Right. So everybody's scaled score is a percentage of the highest score.
Yeah. The bottom line is you're not going to see what they got out of 20 for teamwork.
Right. So teamwork items, positive attitude, no negativism. So don't say no, don't deny kids' ideas, don't stomp on their ideas, etc.
It's okay for them to disagree. It's not okay for them to be rude about it.
Right. And do you have to have roles? No, you don't. It's not a requirement to have roles. We just find that teams who know what their roles are and what their strengths are tend to do better. It's really just a recommendation to give the kids tools to do well in solving the challenges. All right. Common roles. Some of these are in your roadmap. Leader, facilitator. Really, this is the one that keeps the team on track along with the timekeeper. They work together to make sure the team is solving the challenge. The leader just talks more, and really a good leader talks less because they let the team develop the solution as they respond to that. In a performance challenge, who's good at writing the skit? The detail-oriented person who's good at understanding and being able to convey the rules to the team. Points, how are you scored, and how are you going to achieve a higher score? The timekeeper, I mean, some people give the shy kid in the corner, how much time is left, that role. I think the timekeeper is a really important role, especially in tournaments. I mean, you can develop who's better at what throughout the season, and that's fine. Who are your good builders? Identify who's good at what. Who's good at putting the straws inside of each other, who's good at rolling paper, who's good at folding paper, who's good at ripping paper, who's good at poking a hole into the cup. And it sounds specific stuff, but you'll learn these throughout the season as long as you're practicing as a challenge. Risk assessment, a logician. Who makes the risk reward decisions? In the case of our challenge, I had 4 seconds left and the tower is about to topple. I should have asked for time more often. If I had done that, then I would have realized 30 seconds, stop building high because that's adding to toppling over the tower, and go from there. In teamwork, you want to be able to, the kids to be able to accept their ideas, feel comfortable sharing their ideas. Diversity of ideas. Are numerous ideas presented, or is there just one idea presented and they're going with it? I encourage more ideas and then ultimately choose the best one. Are they able to work with through disagreements in a constructive manner, positively? Are they working on a solution using a combination of all team members' contributions? Are they able to come to a consensus for the purposes of solving the challenge, not being, I'm right, you're wrong? Really, do they have a shared purpose and goal of solving the challenge? It's not just instant challenge. In the real world, that's very, very true too. And all of us with jobs understand that, working together and ultimately coming to a solution together is the better thing. Do they communicate well together? That's sort of that box 4. Is their team dynamics? Are they good? The team members generally seem to like each other. Sometimes you can tell. Creative use of materials. Here's your rubric. So if we take a look at box 4, the fact that creativity is there. It's innovative. It's sort of a wow factor. Wow, I've never seen that before. Or wow, that was really cool. That really worked. Is it original work? Is it synthesized work? In other words, are they taking past ideas and applying it to this particular challenge? Again,
when we're talking about creative use of materials, one thing I want to specify is that it is the use of materials and how it's integrated. You can see that in the 11 to 15 box. It's not about adding silly things to your structure after time is getting close to being done. It is about integrating it into the solution, using it in an interesting and innovative way.
Absolutely. So, making smiley faces on your solution, or a chenille stick climbing man is, although it might be creative artistically, use of materials has to serve the purpose of solving the challenge is the best way of doing that. Creative use of materials. Not all materials need to be used. So in the past, 10 years plus in the past, they always say, are all the materials used? That's no longer a thing. How did they use the materials? Did they use the materials effectively towards the solution? Are they used common or unusual ways? I mean, straws, putting straws inside of straws is common, but it's effective. Rolling paper is somewhat common, but a lot of teams don't do it. Folding paper, almost no teams do it. Are materials used to make new things? Are you using the pencil as a tool to roll the paper? Are you using the craft stick as a tool to fold the paper? Or the yardstick used to fold the paper, even though the yardstick itself often cannot be a part of your solution? Are the materials integrated with each other? What does integration mean? Is that as materials touch each other and are used together, is it absolutely essential if those materials be next to each other, do they serve a specific purpose? For example, something you can relate to, mailing labels. When they touch two materials, they connect them together. Without that mailing label, those two materials would not be connected. A lot of times you can do the same thing with chenille sticks, twist ties. How are the materials used together? Are they using them for the end use? Do they integrate the materials into the performance? We'll talk about performances. Sarah, we have questions?
Nope.
All right.
We've got 9 minutes left.
Awesome. Is it a 1 hour or 1.5 hour? Does anyone know?
I think it's an hour.
Okay. All right. So
And
creative
don't-
performance.
If you're live, you only have an hour too.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. So, all right. Box 4. Let's take a look at that. Creativity is there. Whoa. Hold on. There we go. There's lights. Unrelated elements synthesized to create new ideas in the performance. Solve with innovation. These are a little bit more subjective, and your performance challenges, you're often going to find that they're mostly subjective elements. They're all opinions. Sometimes does it have a beginning, middle, and end? That is objective. Did you have imaginary props? That's objective, yes or no. But, creativity of performance. If there are materials, creative use of materials, teamwork, that's all subjective. All right. Do they satisfy the elements in the performance? The team go beyond what is required. I don't recommend going beyond what is required in a building challenge, but a lot of times that's helpful in a performance challenge. Do they know how to write a story? Do they have the typical elements of a story? Do they have characters? Do they have a setting? Are there plot elements? Is there rising action, falling action, climax? Is there a conclusion? Is there an ending that's meaningful to the story? This is the standard stuff that you have in the main challenge as well. They can apply the main challenge to instant challenge based on what they learn. Very important stuff. They apply past experiences, synthesis, and they're working together. Mythbusters. Dun, 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 dun. Oh wait, that's Mission Impossible. Sorry.
It is.
All right, Sarah, take it away.
Okay. This is my favorite thing, guys. So, especially I think as new team managers, you're going to hear some rumors that come out from experienced team managers. So we wanted to take this time and bust some of those myths for you. So if you have something scary that you've heard about Instant Challenge, put it in the chat and we'll talk about it. But I'm also going to address the ones that are my personal pet peeves. So first of all, you might hear that if you have a fine arts team, your team is going to get a task-based challenge, or that if you have an engineering team, that your team is going to get a performance-based challenge. We don't have time when we're planning for a tournament to try and play a gotcha game with your teams. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to make as little work as possible for our appraisers because we know they have really long days. So we're going to pick challenges that we think are good challenges, whether they're task-based or performance-based. And we're going to pick challenges where we can reasonably keep our schedule and make sure that we don't fall behind. We're not worrying about what types of teams are in the room. I don't even look at what type of team is in the room when I'm assigning challenges. Another one that you might hear is that your team should look for loopholes. At one point, there was a real culture around Instant Challenge that if it doesn't say you can't, you can. There has been a shift, and we are going to worry more about the spirit of the challenge. So if you're trying to find loopholes, you're going to encounter appraisers who tell you not to do that. A lot of teams waste a lot of time doing that, and that can be really challenging. So don't let your team get caught up searching for loopholes. Another one we kind of talked about, when we're talking about creative use of materials, it's not about the little frou-frou add-ons that you can make to your tower. We're talking about using it in a creative and innovative way that feeds and integrates into your shared outcome that you're seeking. So we want it to be useful towards the end product. Another one that we kind of touched on, but I'll elaborate on, we have in the past, creative use of materials included that they are using most or all of their materials. That is not true anymore. In that rubric that we showed you, that is our updated version. It does not include that they need to be using most or all of those materials. So you will encounter challenges like the one that we did earlier that says you want them to use 1 or 2 types of materials. They don't need to be adding anything unnecessary to earn more points. We talked a lot about you can't interfere. Interference is not a thing until you're in the room. Kate wanted to chime in, read the challenge. So I think that's in reference to not searching for loopholes. Pay attention to what the challenge is asking you to do. Look at where you're getting points and do those things is really how you're going to be successful in instant challenge. Let's see what else. The biggest myth is that appraisers are mean. Appraisers are not mean. We're not here to take away points. We're not here to judge the kids negatively. We're here to give them the points that they earned. We're all here because we love doing it. And we're here to make sure that you have a good experience. If for some reason you have someone who is not giving you your desired experience at a tournament because they are behaving inappropriately, feel free to contact one of us and we will rectify that situation. But for the most part, like, you should have a good experience with your appraisers. We're not here to take away points and be mean. We had a question that Bonnie answered to everyone, but I don't know if it was asked to everyone. It was. So yes, you can access instant challenges from years past. Additional resources you can use and access as a first-year team manager. Honestly, Google is your best bet. Iowa has a huge bank of instant challenges, and the challenge that you're going to run into is that they are old versions of instant challenges, so you're not going to necessarily see the same progression. If you can find out what year it was used, I would use challenges that are 2013, 2014, or newer. Kate wanted to add in that having your kids make up their own challenges is also very instructive. It gives them a chance to really understand what an appraiser might be looking for or what a writer is trying to convey when they're writing challenges. And then I mentioned this earlier, there are instant challenge days, and those are days for your team to get in front of appraisers and folks like us, where we can give your team feedback. Kate adds that there are supplemental ICs on the resource area on the website. So Kate, is that on DI Colorado's website or is that on DIHQ's website?
So it's on the national site. So if you go to your access digital materials, when you pull up your team, part of that you have access. If you go to documents, it'll say instant challenge practice set. There's even one for Rising Stars, a Rising Stars instant challenge practice set. So there's 2. But yeah, that's in addition to the roadmap resource. There's an additional instant challenge.
Yes. So those are my myths. I think the biggest one is we're not out to get your kids by tricking them, by putting them in an engineering challenge if they're fine arts or vice versa. We're also not out to get your kids by being mean because we like to take away points. We're here because we love DI and it's fun. And then please don't spend time looking for loopholes. read the challenge, do the spirit of the challenge. With that, it's 7:59. So if you guys have questions that we haven't covered, now is your time. Thank you, Suzanne. She says, my DI kid is overhearing this and finding it very reassuring. Good, good.
Yeah, you kids have fun. I mean, I have a blast doing Instant Challenge. Working with teams, I love Instant Challenge. I mean, that's why I do it.
Mm-hmm. I'm an alumni. I remember how scary Instant Challenge was, and it's not my goal to make it feel that way for kids.
All right, very good. Any last questions before we leave? All right, thank you guys. Again, without you guys, the team managers, we wouldn't be here. The kids wouldn't have the opportunity, so thank you very much.
This will be uploaded onto YouTube and DI Colorado's website probably by Monday.
Okay, and with that, you'll have access to our emails. Feel free to reach out. You can also look and see if your regions have the contact information for your regional challenge masters. Those will be the folks who are your best resource going into regionals in February or March as well. And then we would be another point of contact.
All right, great. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Have a great night.